All my life, I've always tried to discover what it is that is my calling, my personal mission, if you will. Something that is unmistakably mine.
How did you find out your calling?
For me, it started with just noticing that music came easy for me. And pretty early, I had a chance to have some composition training, and I started to compose. And already back then, when I was 8, 9 years old, I saw that this is something that just happens very, very naturally for me. So the first glimpse of what I'm actually supposed to do came back then. A little later, as a teenager, I became interested in physics, but it lasted only one semester. And after that semester, I said enough, because I was splitting my heart between music and physics. And I said, you know what? Now I know. And I completely concentrated on music and specifically creating music.
Effortless, is it the obvious sign?
I think the initial impulse of anything that we start to do, it needs to be effortless. Because this is just the nature of things. Not everybody is meant to do everything. And for example, when I was trying to paint as a child, I clearly see that there are tons of people that do this so much better than me, and I just couldn't do it. And I never felt bad about it, because I knew that, unlike other people, I can go to the piano and play any song that I heard on the radio. And that was just a given. So the beginning is, I had this luxury to feel this effortless beginning of things. The development, the continuation, the persistence, failing, ambitions, meeting your own expectations, changing, moving on despite lack of success. Those things are not effortless. But the beginning, something needs to start this rocket to fly. It has a lot to do with Mother Nature from the very beginning.
How did you come to play the piano?
We had the piano in our place back in Ukraine. Although I was showing actually signs of gift, I was playing the piano, and I could play back melodies without having any lessons. So when I was little, so I clearly showed that I have ear and that I can find things even without anybody showing this to me. But my parents didn't want me to even have piano lessons, because my older brother studied piano and didn't have fun at all. So they had so much trouble with him that with me they actually decided, you know what, let him do something else. But I grew up in Soviet Union. But basically, I was born in 1977, so I caught a good portion of Soviet Union. The education system was, in some ways, remarkable. My mom was working in a music school, and her colleagues were going into normal schools in our neighborhood to see who is gifted for music. Can you imagine this in US or France or Germany? It's not to imagine. But they were kind of searching talent, raw talent. And so my mom's colleagues went into my school class and discovered that I have perfect pitch. And they basically ran to her, yelling at her, like, what do you do? Why don't you give him to the music school? So it kind of happened by mistake almost, that she decided to enroll me into her own music school where she was teaching. So, and from that point, I had already some sort of guidance.
Is it necessary to know what's happening right now to develop your own music?
I always say to myself and also to my student that when you listen to something new or to something old, doesn't matter, you always learn. You either learn what to do or you learn what not to do. It's very interesting. I constantly analyze my own reactions. What makes me like a certain thing, or am I liking this just because everybody else is liking it? How do I really process this emotion? Or am I not liking it because everybody else likes it? Like all this, how much ego comes into play. You sometimes forget what is it that liking is. And then you put on, I don't know, the opening measures of Gabriel Fauré Requiem, and you have these goosebumps that go through all your body. And this is a moment of realization. Okay, that's how I'm reacting when I really like. And as an artist, I'm trying to create music that I would be loving.
What kind of experience are you looking for yourself on stage?
It's a great question. I want those goosebumps. I just recently had it. It cannot happen all the time. It should not. Just like, there are peaks, there are certain things that happen because of all the struggle that you go through. I recently played, just beginning of this year, I played a concert of my music for piano and orchestra. My compositions for orchestra are like, it is a rocket science. People say, oh, this is not rocket science. Well, this is rocket science, which means inevitably the first trial, there will be many mistakes. There will be many things that will not work. And then you go back, listen back, you reorchestrate, you improve the parts, you take out the mistakes, and slowly, trial after trial, the scores start to work. They start to take off the ground. And to me, somebody who started as a composer, as a little child, when all this came together on this concert on 29th of January, I was in constant goosebumps on stage, just loving what is happening.
How do you handle mistakes during a performance?
Differently, the ideal attitude is, of course, to let go, because you have to be in the moment. On stage, you can feel it. If you're not in here and now, you're losing, basically. So, of course, I've had situations where one little mistake kind of stuck with me and determined the whole performance. And hopefully my listeners maybe didn't catch it, but I caught it. And so the evening becomes a struggle. I'm sure every musician went through this. And then you learn more and more. Okay, this didn't work out. That's okay. We're going to let go.
What kind of risks do you like to take on stage?
I learned this from my longtime duo partner, Arkady Shulkloper. When I would write something completely new and crazy and unplayable, and we would not have any time to rehearse, and I'm asking Arkady, so should we play it today? And Arkady says, are you kidding? Of course we're playing it today. And it's interesting. He is able to even explain to the audience, you know what, this is a new thing, and share this risk with us. And people, instead of being like, how come we paid the money for the ticket and you guys are not ready? Well, we are ready for everything else, but we do take the risk for this. And even in one situation where the concert was also recorded and there was a video shoot happening, we even played it twice. And I think for the audience, it was a highlight. We basically did 2 takes of the same composition and nobody was hurt. There is a big difference between being underprepared and taking a risk. I don't like to be underprepared. I've witnessed many, many concerts of people who, in my opinion, were underprepared. But instead, people who have very high trust in everything that they can come up with on stage. But for my composer's mind and ears, simply not enough. When people go on stage, I like to see that people have invested lots of their mental and emotional energy to make this happen. Like,
How do you feel it?
I can feel it. I can feel it that there is immense work behind, or somebody is just saying, I'm so good, I can do it on the fly. I can feel it. And even, when Keith Jarrett started playing his solo concerts, I think he always kind of denied that he prepared anything for those concerts. But it almost doesn't matter, because you can see, yeah, you can see that this person had so much preparation, that he practiced so much, that he has done so much thinking about music, that this preparation shows in his free improvisation. To find a good idea is like find some gold on the street. Do you go on the street and see gold everywhere? No, you actually have to look for it. It's hard.
You have to dig.
You have to dig, exactly. You have to dig deep. I can feel when I'm listening to a musician or when I'm visiting a concert if this digging has been happening or not. And even if, in my opinion, the person has not really found anything in that ground, I appreciate the digging. The digging is inspiring. I recently heard a beautiful quote from an amazing Russian musician, Andrei Sapunov. He recently said in some interview that the perfection is not near anybody. But let's really try to do our best. Let go the pressure of perfection. You're not going to be perfect. But let's just try our best.
What do you need to start composing your music?
It's unexplainable, basically, and it should not be explainable. The ideas don't come if I just say, let me write something. I like to stumble upon an idea. I don't like to force an idea. I know that if I'm practicing something on the piano, just play for fun, to myself, for nobody else, I know that an idea is very likely to come. It's always just having fun at the piano, and then suddenly your fingers go somewhere, and like maybe a fisher has this instinct where it's likely right now that a fish will come, just like to have this kind of locator. I know that poets have similar instinct when they just hear one phrase, and this phrase can be said in a conversation in a restaurant or something. They can hear that this is not just a phrase, this is the beginning of a poem. That's why so many writers and poets have these notebooks that they constantly write into. The same happens with music. My iPhone is filled with voice memos of ideas that range back to past 10 years. And I feel in a way constantly guilty, because even to develop all these ideas, it will probably take another 30 years.
So what you're talking about is about catching the beginning.
Yes, because the beginning should be natural. It's the impulse of the, if you will, the divine, or something that moves this universe forward. You can see this in trees, in flowers. It's kind of mind-boggling that if you think about the flower in the park, the origins go probably back to the beginning of organic life, or actually of life itself, of the universe. If you force, like, where is this flower coming from? The seed. So are the ideas that are born in music. And you need them. You need the initial idea, because this is your little child. And by the way, children are also born, you know what I'm talking about. So, but then to raise this child is by any means not an easy thing. Developing an idea, for me, is a painful, amazing, joyful, at the same time struggle, I would say. And it takes sometimes a decade. For example, when you just came, I was finishing a composition called Songs My Parents Sing. It's based on an old Soviet song that my parents sing in their kitchen to this day. And I took it to a completely different dimension. I started playing with this song 10 years ago. I recorded it already, so it's officially released. And I'm not satisfied, not satisfied. Another version, another version. And finally, this month, I wrote a version for string orchestra, choir, and piano trio that we just performed. And I listened to it and, whew, finally, I'm happy about this.
What kind of feeling do you have when you feel it's the one, it's my idea, that's what I'm resonating with?
It's the biggest joy of an artist. You know, of course, an artist enjoys attention, awards, and everything that is connected to that. But to actually know that you have written something that you think is really good, I think it's the biggest joy. You know, whether it's gonna be appreciated or not, this is the goal.
How many times did it happen in your life?
Thank God, many times. But I'm also looking forward to have this feeling over and over again. I'm very hungry for it. You know, there is a certain feeling when you believe yourself into what you just have done. There is a certain feeling that, you know, you can share it with anybody and you know that people will be impressed regarding it could be the most acclaimed musician that you love the most and you're scared of. Sometimes I have this feeling, well, this is, you know, I can show it to anybody right now. That's a good feeling to have.
I often talk breathing with musicians playing trumpet or harmonica. Is breathing something you take care as a pianist?
Well, as a pianist, I discovered that the more relaxed I am, the better is the music. We discovered it together with my trio just recently. We played a concert in Münster in Germany in front of 1,000 people. It was a very important jazz festival. And we were tense. We don't play for 1,000 people every day, so I guess we felt some sort of pressure. We had fun, we did good job, but we were not completely relaxed. So the next day we played in a small jazz club for 40 people. And we said to each other, you know what, we just did this huge thing. And now there is this intimate little setting. Can we just experiment by being 100% relaxed? Just let our bodies feel, you know, just like in a sauna. Everything effortless. Everything is effortless. And I think this was our best concert ever. I recorded it. It's unbelievable to listen to it, how freely it flows. And of course that affects breathing as well. But not just breathing, like you feel that every muscle is relaxed. That is, you know, breathing for piano playing basically that's what it is, being relaxed. For composition, breathing has a different dimension to me because very long time I realized that when I'm writing a melody, and I'm writing melodies all the time, basically, I need to sing those melodies. My fingers don't have that connection to my heart as my voice does when composing the melody. So as a result, I constantly sing. That means that melody is connected to human breath. And if I cannot sing something I wrote, I don't approve it.
Would you say that silence is music?
We play with that idea with my trio a lot. We like to take huge silences in our performance. Partly because we don't have that much silence in our lives in general. I mean, unless I know some people who are living in the middle of nowhere in a field. But in our lives, I feel people are afraid of silence because silence means to be with yourself. I have to say, I love it. I love it. I love to be with myself. That being said, I haven't been in a silent place alone without anybody to talk to. I guess I enjoy silence, but then I'm a very social animal. I need interaction with other people.
Music is about listening. When you're playing, do you think that your audience is listening the same thing than you as a musician?
It's a great question. It's a great question, you know. I think if I do my job well, first of all as a composer, then things come across. I noticed that, you know, just recently when I performed with my trio in Munich, people came to me and were basically portraying the images that I was seeing myself when I was composing certain things. So if everything is right, the point comes across. If I give in to trying to impress, or just instead of playing the story, telling the story that I want to tell, which is always a composer's mind, you know, when you compose, you don't have people around you, so you're not trying to impress anybody. It's an internal conversation. As a performer, you're the gladiator. People pay tickets to see you. It's a show. So inevitably, you're a little bit different than just sitting in your room alone and digging into yourself.
You mean you have to seduce them in a way?
Yes. Even the most conscious people of this, I feel, still do this. You know, it's a chain of events. Are you ready to play and not have the audience react to it? Are you ready to play and have people walk out wondering, was it good or not? You know, it's so hard to survive in today's musical industry that you want the club owner to see that audience went crazy. Therefore, for me, it's very important to have this integrity in what I do and try to not to depend on it maybe, or dependent on it less and less. Care about the audience, but at the same time not giving in into the audience instincts can help to tell the story without distortion.
What do you expect from a conversation about your work like this interview?
You know, the questions that you ask are very thought out, deep questions. And answering to them, I answer basically to some of my own questions. And as we speak, certain things become more clear to myself. It's just like teaching, which I enjoy so much, exactly, you know, due to that same reason. By advising something to somebody else, I advise it to myself. You know, I don't know how it works, but somehow it's working magically. So you allow me to answer some of my own questions that interest me.
I'm gonna leave the room. Please keep the microphone and add whatever you want to the interview.
Well, I would like to add that I want to be able to be completely sincere in my art. I want my ideas to take the best shape that they can take, and to whatever gift and potential I've been given to realize to the fullest degree. I would like to have the wisdom to make the right decision to make this happen, and to overcome any obstacles that might come my way. Thank you.